This is my E7 unit tier list for the Epic Dash selectors. My tiers are pretty self-explanatory, so anything I put in the must-have tier, I recommend you get at least one copy of before you look at anything else in the tier list. So let's get started. First up we have Abigail, pretty strong PvP unit. I used her a lot when my account was new in Guild War, RTA, Arena. She protects the back row unit really well. Some people will call her budget ML Senya, but she's more of a side grade. Alencia, another PvP only unit. So I would put her in strong if you have young Senya, but she's a limited unit. So if you don't have her, she kind of drops because I really only see her used with young Senya. So I'll just put her in usable for now. Araminta, she's just not good. Don't pick her. Arya, another really strong PvP unit. Also can be used in a specific PvE Wyvern one-shot, I think. Other than that, I think she probably a must-have because she's such a good counter pick if your opponent picks too many fire units in RTA. And she's one of the best counter picks for that. So yeah. And Aranka is a PvP unit. And she's supposed to counter shields, but she's just so useless. Just don't pick her. Baal, I use him in the Grass Expedition. That's the only place I use him right now. It's either him or Tenebria. I'll just put him in usable tier for now. PvE only unit. Basar, PvP unit, but he's just not good. Bihu, also not good. It's a burn unit. Bellona, really good PvE unit. I think it's used for Banshee one-shots, which I use her for. I don't really use her for anything else, but her skill 1 is a target max HP damage multiplier, so it's supposed to be good for a lot of PvE content, so I'll just put her in strong. Begita, useless unit, PvP unit. Cecilia, I would put her here, but she is the best in slot knight for the Grass Expedition, and that's where I use her, so I'll also put her in usable tier like Baal. Celine, must have. Insane non-attack skill counter, probably the best counter pick for non-attack skills, and just punishes and one-shots a random unit or can stun a random unit. Basically just deletes one unit if your Celine is built well enough when your opponent presses a non-attack skill, except for Luna, because Luna will seal her and she won't be able to activate her passive. Charles, I think after the buff he might be here. PvP only unit, by the way. Charlotte, outdated unit, no. Chloe, also outdated PvE unit, no. Shu, she was probably here before for PvP, but right now, well, she's used in PvE as well for me. I use her in the Nightmare Raid, the Fire Boss, and she's okay in PvP still, just not great, so I guess I'll put her in usable. Laika, she's kind of usable in PvP because she has the 10 speed EE, I guess, but I literally see nobody use her anywhere, so I'll just put her no for now. I wouldn't use her as a selector if I have like tons of these other units to pick. Destina, she's a pretty good cleanser. I'd say she's the strongest RGB cleanser, no? She has 60% free effect res as well, so I think she deserves the strong category. Also good in PvE as well. For PvP, she's a very high effect res cleanser. Ida, PvP unit for cleave. She synergizes with self bridges with non-attack skills by 20%. But she's a cleave unit, so if you don't cleave, then she's useless. If you cleave, then there are a lot of better options, but she's usable, I guess. Elena, really good. Anti-cleave. So PvP unit. She's usable in PV as well. especially in Ancient Inheritance, but that only comes every couple months. So, but she deserves strong for her PvP power alone. Elagos. If you're like just the cleaver, probably here, and you don't have him yet. But otherwise, he's just a really strong PvP only unit. Elvira. I think she's pretty good, especially back in the. I think everyone still uses Haseti and Young Senya and that in normal arena. She's like really good against some of those teams there, and she can counter some other fighting spirit units, but other than like Young Senya and like Teiyu, she doesn't. It's not worth bringing it against anyone else because she just doesn't do anything other than remove fighting spirit. So I'll put her in usable because of that. Like she only counters like hard counters like 2 very specific units and like 1 very specific team comp in arena. Avalon, nobody uses him. Okay, PvE unit to one-shot bosses, but I don't see anybody using Avalon anymore. Fene, must have. She is like decent to good in PvP and like insane in PvE. She's like a DPS and sustain in 1 unit, and she does insane DPS as well, especially in expeditions. I've switched to using only her as my main DPS in Dark and Fire Expedition, and she does so much damage, especially with her skill 3. But would I prioritize her over Celine? Okay, if you're a more PvE focused person, I'd say Fene over Celine. If you care more about PvP, I say Celine over Fene. And since I care more about PvP, I'll put Celine over Fene. Next we have Fenris. I think it's pretty good. Like, he's like budget. People will say budget Lionheart Samya because their passes are similar. But I think he's really good in PvE as well, especially the Water Expedition. But people will flame me if I put him in strong. So I just put him here for now. Flan, outdated cleave unit. Fumia. I mean, Fumia relies on having it's a PvP only unit, RTA only unit, and she relies on having a green and a red ally on the same team. So she's pretty hard to build a team comp for, but with all the recent insanely strong red and green units that came out, I think she deserves at least usable tier. Haste, outdated unit. PvE unit. Huayang, outdated PvP unit. Ilanav, outdated PvP unit. Wukong, probably still deserves usable. His passive is pretty insane against some team comps, I guess, like the crit and penetration resistance. And he gets self-attack buff on his S3, which does a lot of damage. Genoa, this is my RGB DPS goat. I have to put him above Celine. He just does so much damage, especially if you have C Phantom Politis. If you have C Phantom Politis with him, he goes all the way like up here, and is really hard to kill because of his passive as well. Goated DPS. Kane, outdated PvE unit. Kaweric, outdated PvE unit. K-Run, I would put him here, but I guess he's decent anti-cleave for PvP, so I'll put him in usable. I just want to say outdated PvE unit and just put him in no, but I guess it's pretty decent still for PvE. You know, Kisei, outdated PvP unit. Some people have like giga insane gear on her, but she's just not good for PvP. Yeah. Crow, goated Aureus. Like he has inbuilt Aureus, and he has carry potential as well with this S3, so it has to be strong tier. Lidica, I mean, this is a cleave unit, but like she's just so overtuned that I have to put her here. The new limited unit, Aram, or whatever she's called, I think will make her a lot weaker, but like her kit is just so overtuned. She like just has to be in this tier. Lilius, she's part of the meta Guild War defense. I think it's like Haseti, BBK, Lilius. Other than that, I don't really see her used that much in PvP. And PvE, I guess she's really good as well in against some bosses. Yeah, I don't see her enough to justify putting her in strong, so yeah, just usable. Libet, outdated PvP unit. Lua, also outdated PvP unit, but she's actually decent, even though she's outdated. So, usable. Ludwig, cleave unit, but not a good cleave unit, so usable. Luluka, goated PvE unit, can be used everywhere, but I guess it's just like always a better option for the content you're using her for. Maybe once in a while she's the best option, but since she's so universally, like she can be used basically anywhere in PvE, I'll just put her in strong. Melissa, I guess is an evasion counter unit. Why am I even considering strong? I think she's usable. Goated PvP unit. Let's see. Put him. I think I put him here. Like I think I'd rather have Mort than Celine. No, let's just put him here. Mui. Okay, so by the way, only the must-have tier right now is ordered from best to worst in my opinion. Everything else right now in every other tier has just been order I've put them in. Mui, outdated unit. Naquo, I think she's still pretty good in PvP against certain teams, so I'll put her in strong, but I think she's fallen off a lot, but I still think she's pretty good, so I just put her in strong. Pavel, outdated PvP unit. Para, 120 base speed, PvP. I mean, she's like here if you have insane speed gear and you only play RTA, but I think if you're looking at a tier list like this, you won't have insane gear, so she's not really that good if you don't have insane gear. Politis, I mean, she's probably still in a must-have tier. PvP. I put all the PvP units on the left because I care more about PvP than PvE, but Politis is like, you don't really see her in that many games, but when you have the game for her, she's like insane in those games. And also because MLU Fiend exists, which is usually a better option than Politis in combat readiness increase scenarios. She falls down a bit in value if you have her, but there are cases where she is better than Abyssal Euphine when they have non-attack skills and CR increases, and she has giga value. Ran, probably usable because I use him in PvE. PvP has fallen off like a lot, even for cleavers. He's just not good enough. For PvE, I use him in Nightmare Raid, the fire boss. Ravi. I mean, I really can't put her here, can I? Because she's just not good enough for PvP. This is a PvP. I guess for newer players, it's a PvE unit as well. She can hard carry you, but if you're looking for a long term, then I'm just gonna put her here. Ray, this is just like worse Destina. If you have Destina, then you don't really need this unit. like honestly. So I'm gonna put him here. Goated PvE unit. I guess she's also decent in PvP against like AoE counterattack units like LCB, Navy Captain Landy, stuff like that. But she's so good in some. I just put her here. This is the DDR counter. If they pick DDR, you pick this unit. If DDR's in the game, he's here. If DDR's not in the game, he's here. So yeah, there's a RTA PvP only unit. So since he's like so depends on DDR, just to put him here. I mean, DDR fell off a lot. You don't see DDR much anymore. So I drop him here. If DDR was still like super relevant, I'd put him here. But since it's not, he's unusable. Senya, outdated PvP unit, says I guess is a good cleanup unit for PvP. He like self bridges when you do enough damage to one of the enemy units, and then he comes in with an S3 and cleans everything up. Sharoon, no. Outdated PvP unit. Teiyu, he's another counter for non-attack skills, like Celine, but he just doesn't do anything. Okay, he doesn't do enough. Let's put it that way. Tenebria, it's probably like a Baal. It's similar to Baal. I think Tenebria is better in most content, but Baal is better in the content that he's good in. Let's just put it that way. So she deserves the same tier as Baal. Tywin, this is like another PvP unit which soft counters stun units, like more basically immune to stun and cleanses a unit that gets stunned. So since it's like somewhat useful, I guess in like some Guild War scenarios, I put him in usable. Vildred, by himself, no imprints, he deserves this. If he's maxed imprinted for RTA and you're a cleaver, goes here. If it's max imprinted and you're not a cleaver, he goes here. I mean, if this is your first copy, I really can't recommend you getting him. That's the thing. So I put him here. Violet, outdated PvP unit. Euphine, PvP unit, but used to be goated for PvE for the infinite labyrinth coin farm. And I would have put her like here or something because of that. But now they removed the infinite farm, so just a niche PvP unit that self-bridges with a debuff. So I guess she has some use if you care about using her. Yoha, I guess she's okay against like Fireflan teams in Guild War. Okay, I just put her here. Like PvP unit. Sahak, PvP unit, but counters evasion units. So yeah, I guess I also use him in the B expedition. I mean, not expedition, the Nightmare Raid, the Drew Leaf Council. And I also think he's usable in PvP because he has a self cleanse and a cleanse for an ally, counters evasion. Still a pretty decent PvP unit as well. So yeah, that's my entire unit tier list for the Epic Dash selectors. Let me know what you think.